Hi there again, everybody. Welcome back. This is the Hire and Fire podcast show by Pyra Consulting. We have an episode that gets charged about hindsight being 2020. Primarily discussion about career. I do a lot of question and answer with Chad because of his experience. So enjoy the show, and we'll come back again next week for another one. What is up, everybody? Jeremy Miller, your host of the Hire and Fire podcast, brought to you by Pyra Consulting. I am the founder and CEO here, and we have Chad Sandy joining us yet again today for another topic for 2020, and this one is directly related to 2020 as our topic is hindsight is 2020. So we're going to break that down on looking in the past, what that means to the future, where you are in your career, how you got there, what the heck you want to do, what you can do to grow things financially or whatever for yourself or for your company. Here we are, and we're back. Say hello.
Happy Tuesday.
Chad! Happy Tuesday. We do shoot on Tuesdays more often than not. I really like this topic just because obviously it's a play on words with the hindsight is 2020, but we all have our ridiculous number of regrets or shoulda, coulda, wouldas or what have you. So we can talk about that. I also love the idea of the serendipity nature of careers, right? So like everybody in the staffing business has this weird story about how we got into it. You didn't study this in college. You didn't think you were going to be a staffing sales guy or a recruiter. You kind of landed there somehow. So we can talk about that. Then we can talk about other skill sets where people were very, very intentional. These are high school kids that just knew that they were meant to do something with their career. They got the right degree. They jumped into it immediately. Do you have regrets on that? Do you not? What can you do with the information that you've learned in the past?
Do you think sometime in our lifetime you'll be able to go to college and it will be a major?
Like you can skip all the stupid stuff like math and English?
Tech staffing or...
Oh, like our industry will be a major?
Yeah.
Oh.
Staffing major.
Okay, interesting question. I think the only way that happens is if the entire collegiate system, because of debt, crumbles.
Yeah.
And then we collectively as a society have to rebuild what college means. And then people are maybe a little bit more deliberate to go after something. Like basically the idea of if I'm going to drop $60,000 a year on my kid or on myself or whatever it looks like, I damn well better know where I'm going, and I better have a good idea as to what starting salaries are, because if I'm going to walk out of school owing 200 G's, then how am I going to pay that sucker back?
Yeah. I could see it at like a Capella University or a University of Phoenix or community college offering like an associate's degree in staffing.
Yeah. Why do you think it is, or do you have an opinion as to why people in our industry haphazardly fell into it? I mean, we're talking what? What would you throw out? 1 out of 40 like has an HR degree that is semi sort of kind of related, and the other 39 are just 100% random?
Well, I think what's playing into it right now is the model that a lot of staffing firms use. That whole youth model, train them up, move them out, that kind of model. And so it lends itself to just going to the college fairs and setting up your booth and just looking for those young, sharp, ambitious type people with communications majors.
Fair. But I mean, I worked for a major player, kind of the player nationally for a long, long time. And we cared what the degree was, but we didn't really care.
Right.
Like if you had a major in French and you spent 3 semesters abroad, but for some reason you just have a gift of gab and you like the idea of being able to work in a fun environment, like we would buy that shit. We would.
Sure.
I don't even know if that's fair or not.
Well, it's an easy sell, I think, because the upside you're selling, there's not a lot of careers out there that you can sell to kids coming right out of school and tell them, look, if you do this, this, and this, and it's not really shooting the moon, that you can literally be making close to six figures by the time you're 25, 26, 27 years old. There's not a lot of non-sales. I mean, this is sales, but what I'm saying is, the people that are getting hired for these typically aren't necessarily, sales-related majors.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And so the sell to them is pretty easy. Unless you're an engineering major or something specific, it's a pretty nice sell, pretty big carrot.
So what's funny about this industry, and I don't know how much time we're going to spend on our industry per se, but I used to make jokes that somebody needs to go into colleges and sit down and speak to the HR salesy majors, because I watched it over and over and over again. If a recruiter specifically could come in as a college grad in even barely outperform their internal competition within the staffing firm, all they had to do was make it a year, and they could walk out of a salesy staffing company and go land a contract or permanent gig with a major corporation doing talent acquisition.
Sure.
And make 40, 50 bucks an hour or 80, 90 grand. I mean, we're talking 24-year-olds making 90 grand right out of school with a business degree. And the only reason why they're valued at that is because they literally survived a year with a staffing company. It's a strange reality. Then in addition, with our industry, from my experience at least, there are two different schools of thought. If you're the Northwestern Mutual financial services insurance sales company, you are hiring a half a dozen people at a time, expecting and planning on 4 or 5 of them to fail.
Yep.
The staffing business kind of works the same, but I don't think the same expectation of failure is there. There's just an understanding that the majority of these people are going to realize, again, hindsight's 2020, I either don't like the staffing business, or I don't like sales, or I don't like a commission-based income, and they flame out.
Right.
Next week's episode is going to be interesting with Laura, because she's spent a good time in both sides of the fence. So she'll be able to give a little bit more of an explanation than guys like you and I who've only been on the agency side.
Sure, yep.
But yeah, the industry itself is just saturated, especially whether you're good, bad, or indifferent at your job, of people that had no plan on joining this industry at all. Mm-hmm. So what do you think about people in general? Like, you got kids coming out of college. What do you think about the idea of hindsight's 2020 on like what you studied in school compared to what you end up doing in a career?
Well, my opinion would probably be shared by many in that statistically most people don't end up settling into a career
based on their
major. As far as looking back on myself, I'm going to sound like a lot of parents of, you name it, professional athletes, professional, whatever, actresses, and then right down to what we do. I probably would not recommend to my boys to get into staffing. Yet,
why is that?
Because of the work.
It's a grind.
It's a grind, and so that sounds funny because I love being in staffing.
And you financially benefited, and your career has worked.
And I have no intentions to ever getting out of it. Glad I did it, and so I probably look at the work involved and think, God, do my boys really want to go through the grind of, what it takes to not even just be successful, like say where you were at, but just to survive, like you mentioned. Those first couple of years are brutal, and then even then, it takes a stick-to-itiveness.
Yeah, okay, it's fair. But in conversation, we do IT staffing, so I'll use an IT example. Think about all the different skill sets that we place. There's not one person that we work with on a daily basis, hiring manager or potential placement, that didn't have to pay their dues at the beginning of their career.
Right.
So is it really, really different? Or is what you're describing different because of the fact that you don't know if it's the right industry. You don't know if you can make any money. Because there's more of a survival component in what we do. Can you survive long enough to be able to even find out if you can thrive? Mm-hmm. But your son coming out of college, going into engineering, non-IT engineering, there really isn't that risk. I mean, he just has to kind of wait, tread water, show up, have a good attitude, do his job, he'll learn, and then eventually he'll just continue to progress and make more money.
Right. So he'll still have to put in his dues too if he wants to climb up any ladders or move up into bigger companies and better opportunities. It's just what I know is staffing. So I know that grind. I have no idea the grind he's in for, other than to say with a high level of confidence that he's going to have to put in his time. You know, he's not just going to become a manager in 1 year. Maybe, but probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this industry is right for you if you're money motivated. Mm-hmm. If you're driven and you're money motivated and you're incredibly competitive, you, at the beginning when you jump in, your buddies are going to probably be making more money than you. If you're 22, 23, 24, and you start with one of the bigger firms with no experience, you're going to have friends around you coming out of college like your son who land a gig making 75 where you're making 40 or 50 or whatever the number is.
Yeah.
That is a humbling, exhausting component where you have to have this level of belief and faith that you're going to be able to A, catch up, and then B, surpass. And I think that's why most people flame out, because it's just too hard.
Yeah.
And then you're surrounded by people in an organization that are more experienced and better than you, and you have to have this stick-to-itiveness to be able to get there. Right. Now, my story is a little different because I actually studied IT and then had to learn the hard way that I don't like this shit. Mm-hmm. I was decent at it. I think I could have been good at it. I don't think I ever would have been great at it. But I learned right away this is not the right home for me, and then it kind of forced me to look into different avenues. Yep. I think that's typical for the staffing business outside of the 22-year-old college grad, but what was yours? Like, what did you do right away out of college?
I was a merchandiser for a food distributor.
So you probably didn't, that probably wasn't related to your major.
Nope. I mean, it was marketing and sales to the extent that you had to pitch the grocery store management on getting your product on the shelf, right? Shelf space is competitive. So this was for a specialty food distributor. In other words, you go to a grocery store, you're in the mustard section, they got all your yellow mustards, but then the top couple shelves have all the goofy mustards.
Yeah.
That would be an example of the types of products we repped. So it was competitive in the sense that you got a 8-foot section of mustard. There's only so much space, and the big shooters, the Frenches,
of course,
and then you get 4 companies competing for like 8 SKUs or rows or whatever.
So did that click for you, that industry?
No, for me it was a job. I ran a lot of vacation routes. But what I do remember, the competitive nature of it was, number one, wanting to get my route done quicker than anybody else. So, because it's kind of like your job was done when you were done hitting your stores. And in specialty foods, you had to stock your own shelf. Your product was delivered by the truck to the store. It sat on a pallet till you put it on.
Interesting.
Think of like a Coca-Cola or a Frito-Lay person.
Yeah, they got their own peeps.
They put their own chips on the shelf.
Yeah.
Same scenario. And you're done when your day's done. It's not 5 o'clock and my truck is half full. Now, I wasn't driving the truck, but, there were pallets at all the stores. When you're done, you're done, however long it took. So I was competitive in the sense of getting it done quicker than anybody. And then also we tracked new product placements into the store. So yeah, I took it serious in terms of adding product into each store.
But at some point, you hit a critical threshold where it was like, this is not where I want to be forever. And you knew that it wasn't a fit for you long term for whatever reason.
Right. I answered an ad I saw an ad in the paper, because this was the 90s, saying, it was for a staffing company, straight commission, 100,000+ per year potential. I'm in. Let's go.
Right. That's the kind of dough that has my attention.
Yeah. So I'm making 25 grand, 30 grand,
right.
35 grand a year, and I saw that. So I only did that for a summer, and then was hired onto a traditional consulting firm with a $40K base, a car allowance, and commission.
Okay. So go ahead.
At the time, I'm making, like I said, like $18,000 base and a bonus, and all of a sudden I'm a $40K base.
Yeah, which is a huge
$300 a month car allowance.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it was,
which is no different than starting at 40 grand now and what 60 grand would mean to you.
Right. So this is where in looking back, I talk about that carrot. You mean I'm going to get paid that, and I could make 100 grand a year, and I'm not 30 years old yet, and all I got to do is help people find a job?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I do?
Which actually feels good to do.
Right. So I looked at it there was that you don't get a lot of satisfaction that you're helping humanity when you add a shelf of jalapeno jelly to the top shelf of Cub Foods, but when you're thinking, man, I can make really good money, and I'm helping people. I'm helping the companies find people, and more than that, I'm helping someone find a job.
Yeah.
Job meaning either perm or a contract job.
Just anything that they like.
So you kind of had that feeling of you were doing good.
Yeah, and that's why the IT staffing business was interesting to me, because I didn't want to be in a position where I was literally just finding a job. Like, I didn't want to work for a temp agency, and there is a huge difference.
Yep.
I don't think I was as intelligent about the industry as I am now, just after doing it for 14 years, naturally. What's weird about the hindsight is 2020 in a career for me, and anybody who's been in the working world for 10 years or longer can appreciate this. You have these certain set of experiences at the beginning of your career that you don't know if they're even relevant to what the hell you want to do or will do. The main advice I would give to somebody is that I was fortunate that I had the thought that was, in school and in my profession, whatever I'm going to do, I need to make sure that it benefits me in the future. So I switched my major 4 times. And this is after being married with kids in my early 20s, and I'm still switching majors. Mm-hmm. But I was intentional to only switch if I never lost a credit. So if I felt like it was an upgrade to what I wanted to do in my career and I didn't lose credits, boom, let's go.
Yeah.
Then in my career, I found myself in a spot where I had 2 failed careers by the time I was 24 years old. So I'm married with multiple kids already, 24 years old. I've already studied IT and worked in IT, and I didn't think that was for me. I've already studied business and worked in sales, selling copiers, and I didn't think that was for me.
Yep.
So now the best decision I ever made was to say, how can I combine those suckers? How can I take a little bit of an IT flair and a salesy flair and put them together?
Yep.
And that's ultimately how I ended up in the staffing business, only because I had worked for a staffing firm before. So then I was able to capitalize on both type of experiences. And if you would have asked me in the middle of being miserable selling copiers, if I would have ever valued that experience, I would have effing laughed at you. Like this job was terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm walking around the Twin Cities, literally walking around in my territory, handing out business cards. Hi, my name's Jeremy. I work for blankety blank copier sales company, and I'd like to know who makes decisions on selling copiers. Like, I'm in the middle of a doctor's office with patients standing around, and I'm the guy in a suit at the counter trying to sell copiers to these people. I did not enjoy it, but those were the exact experiences that I needed to be successful in this industry. This
Right.
industry is in the staffing business, which
Right.
is not related.
So you were picking up habits and traits that you didn't even realize you needed until later, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, so to this day, I lead you guys based on certain data points.
Yep.
And I got that because one of my old bosses in selling copiers had that type of mentality, and he was able to prove to me, if you just do enough of this, you get enough of that, and then you get enough of that, and then some of these deals will close and you'll make money.
Yeah.
And that was kind of how I brought that into the staffing business. I don't know if other people have that experience where like you can look back at some of the crap that you've done. Again, hindsight.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what types of jobs did you have in high school? What things do you like? What do you really want to do? Are you money motivated or not? I mean, I'm having discussions with my 20-year-old daughter of like, what type of life do you want? Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a successful career that doesn't pay enough. If you're happy, God love you, because happiness is hard to find in a job.
Mm-hmm.
But will you be happy if you're only making 40, 50, 60 grand a year as a 35, 40, 45-year-old? I don't know. Some people are.
Yeah.
And they love their life. And some people like me aren't. And I think those people could look at me and judge me legitimately for my money motivated nature. And I've had people say to me, like, you're too money motivated. Maybe I am for them. Maybe I am for their career. Or maybe they're just in the right freaking spot. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the advice I give my boys is kind of this blend, learning. We all do this, right? We learn from our own, not just mistakes, but just our history, our actions. And my advice to my boys is lay out some things that you like to do. And then when you're looking at all those things you wouldn't mind doing, pick the ones that make money. And then find that blend, right? Versus just only picking things you like to do. Because if you pick, I want to do this, this, or this, and all of them pay 40 grand a year, that might be good, but maybe not. Where if you pick some things that you have an interest in, then maybe narrow it down to within that list which ones have good upside to them.
Yeah.
Kind of best of both worlds.
My hindsight is 2020 also kicks in, where I look at the failures.
Mm-hmm.
And not necessarily like something that epically failed, where it was just where you look back and you feel like it was worthless, but just like how things ended. Anything from my marriage to the way my old company ended after 11 years in a really, really good run. Like, what type of mentality are you taking out of the failure into the next thing? And how long are you going to hold on to the shit, pissed off, bitter, judgmental opinion of what you did have or did experience? And is that or is that not benefiting you moving forward? You have a specialty in this regard just because of your more positive nature. I mean, do you look back, how do you balance the difference between the pain and the regret with the I'm thankful for that because I'm a better person of it? You follow what I mean?
Yeah. When I look back, I tend to look at both sides, the positive and the negative. And ultimately, I start with the position of, am I happy with where I'm at right now in general? So I tend to not have regrets, and I tend to not beat myself up for too long of a period over mistakes I've made, because I will still tell myself, I'll look at myself and say, okay, remember, even those mistakes, if you could redo that, you'd probably do something different, but I wouldn't be here. Who knows where I'd be? Who knows how many kids I might have? Who knows if I would have met my wife, right? So I tend to easily logically be able to be okay with right where I'm at today, despite all the F-ups in the past. So I tend to look at both the negative stuff and the positive stuff, and then evaluate that, and then when I turn around and move forward, use those learning moments, both good and bad, to adjust for the future.
All right, so then let's dive into the shit of it.
Yeah.
When you have a hindsight crappy experience,
Mm-hmm.
how long do you give yourself to be pissed, bitter, angry, hurt, betrayed, whatever you want to call it?
Well, I actually have an answer for that.
You
Jerry
do?
Miller. I do. So my wife affectionately calls me Mrs. Sandy. because I take a lot of baths. We have, our house, we have the master bath.
That's right, everyone. You heard him right. Go ahead, baths. Continue.
So we got one of those big, triangular size jacuzzi tubs in our master bathroom. And I'm the only one that uses it. I'm taking baths all the time. So my wife calls me Mrs. Sandy, and she hates it because I tend to take baths like right after she cleans the tub, and she hates scrubbing that tub.
Oh, yeah.
And I tell her I do it. But
so hindsight for her is, why the hell did I clean it?
Yeah. But I probably take a bath once a week. And that's my sort of moment where I wash away any shit that might be there.
Oh.
Literally and physically.
Physically correct, yes.
Yeah. So if whatever's gone on since the last bath, that's like my moment. I let it all drain away. It's a metaphor. The water drains and right down the drain go the problems.
Gosh, I'm super jealous because I don't have this talent. Like, I carry shit. My only actual concrete what I do in this regard is, yes, I use my hobbies, whether it be working out or golfing, to be able to get out some of this stress and anxiety that I have. But for me, that's why I do Black Fridays. And I know Black Fridays, it means something to me, and it doesn't to a lot of people here. But I'm literally wearing black every Friday because there is shit that needs to die.
Yep.
In regards to how I think, what I experience, things I need to let go. And in this industry, the one thing that I'm fortunate at is I've been doing it long enough. So at the beginning, you have setbacks. You have people that burn you.
Yep.
You have people that turn jobs down. You have people that lie to you. You have people that say they're going to go to an interview and they don't show up. You have people that fail drug and background checks. Shit happens, right? And that directly affects our performance, our reputation, our income, etc. So yes, on one level, that's incredibly infuriating. Mm-hmm. On another level, it just happens. Life happens. Things happen. But if at the beginning, it took me weeks to get over that stuff. Pissed.
Yeah.
Super pissed. And then eventually I whittled it down to a day. And then eventually I whittled it down to an hour. And then now I'm at the point where I give myself 10 friggin' minutes.
Yep.
You have 10 minutes to be pissed about something. And then it's all right, what are we going to do to fix this?
Yep.
Whatever this is. So I have been shrinking my hindsight time frame because what I've learned personally, at least, is that the longer I let myself dwell, the more miserable I become.
Yeah.
And the more you feel like life is happening to you instead of that you actually have an active role and that you are participating maybe in your own rescue or maybe in your own success.
Yep. So the bath thing for me, for some people it might be meditating or whatever, but for me that's a specific thing where I go up there saying to myself, okay, now I'm going to wallow for the next half hour. I'm going to wallow, digest this, and then I'm going to flush it, and it's going to be done. So it's like this trigger, and I walk out of there feeling better, and it's done. For others, like I said, it could be working out at night. That's your thing. But I don't just make it my thing. It's not just a thing I do to relieve stress or whatever. I make it my thing to that's my pity party moment to myself.
Yeah.
And the guys out in the pit have heard me say, you can either, some people make it happen. That's the looking forward. Some people watch it happen, and some people wonder what happened.
Yeah.
And, the whole bath thing for me is a way to flush everything. So now it's time to look forward and make it happen.
Move the hell on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, 2020 has a new decade, a new feel to it. For me, it's got a personally different flair just with where we are growing this company and things are starting to click. And again, the divorce that I mentioned, there's a lot of shedding of the past, but I don't get to walk away from that. I'm always going to carry that with me, and I'm either going to let it destroy me or I'm going to let it motivate the shit out of me. And I'll be honest, man, depending upon the day, it just depends. And I'm going to have days where I'm going to feel beaten down and judged or demeaned or focus on the loss or whatever that is. And then some days like today, God love it, on a Tuesday, it was sunny today and it was feeling pretty damn good. And it's going to be tough to get me out of a positive mindset. I think I just ride the roller coaster a little bit. I don't even know if that's where I would recommend people to be. But I only know what the hell is going on in my head. What goes on in your head in regards to riding the roller coaster outside of just your rubber ducky
And those bath salts.
and your bath salts,
Those bath bombs.
not the drug version.
Yeah. Nope. You know, I think you've got to know me as a little bit more of a passionate person when things are going up or down. But in general, I've always tried to maintain a little bit more even keel. So maybe behind the scenes, you see a little bit more of that emotion, both the positive and the negative, when things are going great or when they're not. But in general, I just try, it's important to me to try to maintain somewhat of an even keel, or else I would probably get ulcers or something. But I think that's a learned behavior, to be honest with you. I think a lot of people in our industry, or maybe just in general, they feel the need to really express to their boss how upset they are over what, something that's not going right, because they want their boss to know how much they care. And I think that's a real thing, because over the years, when I've prided myself on staying even keel, I have had managers on one-on-one say, "Chad, do you care?" Because I'm not showing you just lost that deal last week and you didn't seem real pissed off about it.
Yeah.
And, I just tend to I can't look back for too long, right? You got to analyze what happened and turn around and move forward and go on.
What do you think about the dynamic that when you judge yourself against other people? Do you, A, is it fruitful? And B, can you, in a moment's snapshot, really adequately understand where you are in whatever process you're going through compared to anybody else following maybe a similar trajectory?
I don't think so. I mean, to start this part of the conversation, I'd reference like what people post on Facebook. It's the same principle.
Fucking highlight reels.
Right, but the same general concept, right? What people post, you just have no idea what's really going on behind the scenes, right? I have this person I'm connected to on Facebook that spent the last year posting all the great shit and trips to Florida because they had a house in Florida, right? And now 2 months ago, I see she's moving into a new place and she's divorced. So obviously, if she's now already done being divorced and she's in a place of her own, all that crap I saw for the last year where it was happy pictures of her and her husband, obviously underneath all that, things weren't so great. And I'm not happy for her, but my point is just, I try not to judge myself against others, my coworkers, for a million reasons, but part of it is because they don't know what I got going on beneath the surface, and I don't know what they got going on, good or bad, either. And so I got to row my own boat.
Yeah, but at the same time, man, I mean, like, that's what our entire economy is fueled by.
Yeah.
Like judgment, perception, fear. How many people out there right now are driving a Audi, Beamer, Mercedes, Lincoln, whatever the hell else, throw out some fancy cars, and half the reason why they're driving it is because they want other people to think that they got their shit together.
Yeah, I think that's common. I got called out on that once when I was really struggling. I was at a real low point in life, and I was driving a big old SUV, a Lincoln Navigator.
Oh, I nailed the Lincoln.
Yeah, and this was 20 years ago, and my boss at the time, he called me out in a very professional way, but he could see it. He could see right through it. And he said, "Chad, you're trying to be this.
You're trying to project something.
You're trying to be this, and you're really this." And for the people that can't see what I'm doing, my hands are at the same level.
Same level.
So he wasn't saying, you think you're here, way up here, but you're really way down here in the shit pile. That's not it at all. What he was telling me was, they're even. But you think you're here, you're trying to act like you're here, but you're really here. Just be here. That's okay. Be here. This is good too. Stop doing this and start doing this. And I think in work here, if I can not be so bent on how, judging others or how others might be judging me, I hope the example I'm setting is that down the road, when I'm leading people, that I can be more relatable in the sense that what I'm hopefully showing people is, I have things going on underneath the surface, and I have had things going on underneath the surface, and I will have things going on underneath the surface. But despite all that, I'm just plugging along, doing my job, keeping it in the middle versus the ups and the downs. And I hope that I'm setting the example right now. Does that make some sense?
It makes perfect sense. I was trying to process what you were saying. At the same time, I was thinking,
because what I'm doing by example, without having to say it, is you have no excuse. Because look at me. So we're all in the same boat. So if I don't make excuses and I don't judge and whatever, hopefully I'm setting the example that, yes, you too can battle through whatever it is you got going on outside of work or even in work, and you can persevere through that and battle through it, and you'll be okay. You'll be just fine.
I think the reason why this topic is interesting is because whenever you peel back the onion on yourself and you look in the past, it's very easy to know exactly what you've done, good and bad, successes and failures, but it's equally challenging to the degree that it's easy to look back and evaluate yourself, is to the same degree how challenging it is to know what the hell lays ahead. Mm-hmm. And the only key determining factor of improving the story, whatever that is, financially, career, relationships, faith, fitness, health, money, whatever, is to just continue to grind and focus on the goal in the future. Mm-hmm. So to me, to the degree that I'm looking back on anything is to the degree that is thwarting my ability to look forward. But what is more powerful, the pain of the past or the promise of the future? And almost always for me, the thing that's more emotionally powerful is the pain of the past. I'm optimistic about the future. I know what I want to do, but since it hasn't happened yet, the promise is outweighed by the pain. Mm-hmm. And I think most people want to put on a facade level of bullshit that they have their shit together at any given moment. And I just think we would be a happier human race, let alone Americans, let alone Minnesotans in our current context, let alone in the staffing business, if we could just collectively figure out a way to view the promise of the future as more powerful than the pain of the past. Because you can't change the past, but you can change the future. So how is it possible that the thing you can change is outweighed by the thing that you can't? Because that's what your emotions go to, or at least that's what my emotions go to. And maybe I'm weird. Maybe I have a lot of improvement to be made, and that's where I'm stuck presently. Or maybe anybody listening is like, yep, I'm struggling with the same stupid thing.
What I would probably, I'm a cliche guy, as you know, and what I might tell that person who's saying, I'm still struggling with this, that, or the other thing from the past, the sooner they can get to a point where they realize I'm not okay and you're not okay, and that's okay. So we all have stuff. And I like the title of today's podcast, Hindsight is 2020, because I think looking back, the hindsight, and taking the good and especially the bad, whatever that is, therein lies your answer to provide a clear 2020 direction for what you want to do moving forward.
Yes.
So I don't buy into this whole, nope, you can never look back, man. Just keep looking forward, keep grinding, keep going. No, look back, evaluate.
Feel the regret.
Feel
the
yeah.
pain.
Don't bury it. Feel it. Feel that bad stuff. Analyze it. Feel it. And then along with the good stuff, use that to regain your focus and get a crystal clear path of what you need to do now moving forward. So I love it. Hindsight's 2020.
That's tough to refute. And it's more interesting whenever we argue. So I'll just give a counterpoint. No, that's not true. I can't disagree. I can't. I know my singular battle in this regard is that we've talked about this before. I have an insatiable appetite, so there is a level of discomfort and dissatisfaction on where I am at any given moment. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a massive strength of mine that forces me to regularly, continuously, throughout every day of my life, be able to figure out how to move forward and progress. But man, I am regularly weighed down by the past, at least recently. And I know that my own ability, or lack thereof at the present moment, of being able to be happier is because of being stuck in the past. And if you talk to anybody about their life, their failed relationships, their failed careers, their failed finances, their failed anything, I'm of the opinion that you can figure out in about 30 seconds whether or not they're stuck in the past or focused on the future. Mm-hmm. And
I mean, if you're too stuck in the future,
Too stuck in
the future. You're just constantly, nope, I'm not. What's behind me is behind me, and you don't try to learn from it. I don't know. To me, those people, the problem with those extremes. Now you're just this constant. I'm only looking forward. Those are like the dreamers who don't have a plan, right? Because they're not analyzing. You know, the typical steps are what? You set a dream. You have a dream, you set a goal, you create a plan, you execute the plan, and then you
evaluate
how things are going, and then you readjust your plan or the goal if the timeline, whatever. That's just kind of how to do life 101, right? Dream, goal, plan, execute, evaluate. So the people who are never evaluating, they're never looking back or analyzing, to me, those are just the blind dreamers that have no plan. They're just floating through life. So I'm a fan of, a big proponent of looking back. Not dwelling, but looking back and evaluating and analyzing.
Well, I'm loving your thought track. I mean, the dream, goal, plan, execute, evaluate, that's everything right there. I mean, I feel like in business, that's a strength of mine because you have to be able to evaluate not only your present performance, but your past performance. And then naturally, that's an indicator of where you're going to go. And if you can't make corrective behaviors, then you can almost assume you're going to experience the same bullshit moving forward. Mm-hmm. So name something in your life that is struggling right now. Let's say you are worried about taxes. Thank God I'm not this present year. But let's say you're worried about taxes. The only thing that you can do is evaluate the fact that you must have fucked something up. You made more money and you didn't anticipate that. You didn't have enough write-offs. You didn't plan accordingly. You had the wrong number on your W-4 or whatever the hell the situation is. And now you're in this situation where taxes are going to be a problem. So here we are, very beginning of February. We have another, 2.5 months before taxes are due, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. So in this story, you know that you're either actively wanting to get your taxes done because it will benefit you, or you're actively procrastinating this process because you know you screwed something up. Mm-hmm. So if you can't just admit that to be able to move forward and fix it, then you're guaranteed to repeat that same shit. So I do have a good level of anxiety, I think, and by good, I mean good as in healthy, about being able to look back and say, I have made all these mistakes. And what do I want to do differently, right? Like right now I'm having a beer shooting this podcast with you. That's enjoyable. If you would have asked me a year ago, I would have told you definitively, I just got separated and I'm probably having too many of the beers that I'm having right now. But because of the fact that I was able to look back and be like, this isn't healthy, I need to figure out a better way. Now there's just 1 or 2 days a week that are my moments. Mm-hmm. And then now I know I can do this because I've already figured out the fact that I've screwed something up. So my best advice to my 20-year-old daughter who's at the very beginning stages of figuring out how to do this adulting thing is just go. Just go and make the best decision that you can. And when shit burns you, because it's going to, then you have to be able to look back and evaluate and say, whoops, make the corrective change and frickin' move forward.
Yes.
And then knowing definitively you're going to do it again, but hopefully your again is in a different area.
Yep.
Because if you're repeating the same dumbass mistake, then you can know definitively you're not learning from the past and you're not even executing on a future plan.
Right.
So you're screwing up both sides of the spectrum right now, which I've gleefully done and had to bear the consequences for doing so.
Yeah. So I love telling people, look, make a mess out of life. Make a mess. Go for it. Try it. Do it. But if that's where it ends and you're never looking back and evaluating, then you just have a life where you just made a big mess but never got anywhere. But if you're making messes and then occasionally evaluating what's going on, yeah, you're going to continue to make messes, but hopefully they're at a higher level or in a different spot. And then you'll look back after 10 years and go, wow, I just made a mess for 10 years. And look where I'm at, that kind of thing. And that's where having a plan or having a goal or having a dream comes into play. To me, the whole dream, goal, plan, execute, evaluate thing is something you can apply to anything in life and work. Anything in general. And I think if your dream is big enough, whatever that is, I think we have in our subconscious, it's like a magnet. We don't even realize we're being pulled toward it, but we've defined it. We've got it on paper. Yeah.
All right. So what's your advice to people that are stuck? So let's look at it from two different angles.
Yeah.
You have a family member, friend, colleague, spouse, girlfriend, boyfriend, who cares, that is stuck.
Yep.
How do you get through to that person? Because you can see objectively, externally, that they're repeating continuous behaviors, and for that reason, the future is not going to change. So that's one component. Or if you're stuck and you're struggling with that and other people can see it, how would they get through to you? Yeah. So how do you get through to other people? What's your tact? And then how, if you were to say to a very close family member, if I'm ever struggling with something and you want to break me out of a pattern, here's how I would recommend you do it.
The short answer is climb up the dream ladder, depending on what rung you're on. So using my work as an example.
So this is you giving somebody else advice.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So if I'm going to start with trying to identify where they're at on that dream ladder. So they're probably stuck in the most likely in the execution part. They're doing something over and over and not getting the result they want.
Or not doing, or what have you.
So then you're going to want to, again, move up the ladder. Okay, you're in a rut. You're stuck. Well, what is it you're doing?
So your stance would be to find whoever this person is in your life. Your stance would be, so the first thing you would do is be able to, in a conversation, you would be helping them or trying to figure out where they are on their own personal ladder.
Yeah.
So where do they want to go?
Right.
Where
So
are they and why are they stuck presently?
Use something generic or general. If a person wants to be a stay-at-home parent. I want to be a stay-at-home mom. That's my dream. That's the
top of the ladder.
That's the top of the ladder.
Yep.
Now we have a starting point to have a discussion about what goals you have to set, whether it's you and your significant other, or just you if you're a single parent, or whatever. If you don't want to be a stay-at-home parent, you're the only source of income.
Maybe you're a single parent, but you want to figure out a way to be more available to the kids. So maybe you want to dial back hours, or you want to have more flexibility, or what have you.
Yeah. So it's to me, that's where it starts, is identifying where you're at on the ladder, and if it's a recruiter or a salesperson, it might be in their execution, right? What they're actually doing on a day-to-day basis. And then it's the same thing. You're moving up the ladder to, what's your ultimate goal here? Well, it's, whatever. It's 4 deals a month. I want to do 4 deals a month. I just can't seem to get above 2. Well, okay, so now we've established what your goal is. Now we have to start looking at what your plan is, and are you executing that plan? Or
yeah, but again, all this sounds great in theory, but let's be honest. We're talking stubborn MFers who like to bitch about where they are, but don't want to do anything to fix it, or the things that they're doing to fix it aren't fixing it.
But let me stop. Okay, but let me stop you there. Stubborn MFers who don't want to fix the problem or do anything different.
Stuck.
Now I'm going to quote a friend of mine who used to use this all the time, this phrase all the time in youth sports. Sometimes you cannot coach the want to. He'd call it the want to. You can teach all the skills. You can have them going to all the camps.
The want versus the will.
The desire. Yep. You can't teach the want to, the desire. And so if someone is stuck and they're very frustrated that they're stuck, and they ask for help, they want help, and we move up that ladder and either go backwards or get to the top and move back down to come up with a different plan that they can execute, or identify that the plan they had, they're not actually even executing it, so you shouldn't be frustrated at all, actually.
Because you aren't doing shit.
Yeah, you actually should be very happy you're doing 2 deals a month based on the plan you're following, but it's not the plan you actually set. Okay? But if the person just is unwilling to create a new plan or start executing the plan they actually set for themselves, I can't teach the want to. You either want to do it or you don't.
Okay,
the same would hold true in life. And I want to it's important to me that my kids are raised in the Lutheran church and we attend church regularly, and I want them to have a good faith base to their life. Okay, that's your dream / goal.
Sure.
So then what's the plan? You can't, you're a creaster. What do you mean? You go to church on Christmas and Easter, yet you want your kids to have this faith. Okay, you can't.
It's unrealistic.
Right, so are you willing? Do you have the want to? Do you have the desire? Are you willing to then do what it takes to reach that goal and dream up here? You're down here, your execution is terrible. You're going to church twice a year, your kids aren't in religion classes on Wednesday, whatever.
Sure.
I'm just throwing things out there. But the point is, same difference. I want to have a great marriage. My dream is to, I want to have like an Ozzie and Harriet, Father Knows Best kind of marriage, a television marriage, right? Okay, but if you're working 150 hours a week, and you see what I'm saying?
100%. All right. Obviously, this is true logic. Now let's take it more personal. Where have you had moments in your life where you were stuck, and somebody else was trying to mentor you out of that? Mm-hmm. Is it enough for them to sit you down and say, where's your dream ladder? However ridiculous that sounds. And what are you doing to get there? Is that person going to... Because something has you in quicksand. Yep. Your mentality, your willingness to get out of your comfort zone. Like, how do you take somebody who's incredibly out of shape, that's willing to talk about it? Maybe you're incredibly out of shape.
Many people are.
So how does somebody help you, or how do you help somebody else in this circumstance get out of that? So yeah, obviously, like you said, you can help them find the dream, but when they're stuck on a lack of execution, I feel like your only opportunity is to prove the point that their actions are not backing up where they want to go with their dumbass dream. Right? So, like, if you want this and you're not doing anything about it, then what do you expect me to do? So, is this just as simple as you found somebody or somebody found you in a moment where neither one of the parties are willing to actually have the want to? Well, and you just throw your hands up in the air? Or what is the next stage?
Well, I think an important trait or traits of the, let's just call it the helper, I'm trying to help you now, right, is to listen and to ask why. Ask why. Why? And in doing that, peel away the layers. So the person that really wants to lose weight, and that's their dream is to be 170 pounds again, 5'10", right? I want to be 170 pounds again. That's my dream. I want to be in shape one more time the rest of my life. And my goal is to get there in the next 12 months or 2 years or whatever. And my plan and my execution are in the toilet. I think the important thing is, if you're the one actually trying to help that person, is to, rather than just shun and put down the excuses, is to talk about the excuses.
Focus on the why.
Focus on the why. Okay, why? You know you need to eat better. You know you need to exercise more. Why are you not doing that? I don't have time. I'm working 10 hours, counting the time I'm in my vehicle and I'm in my car and working. It's 10, 11 hours a day. I come home and I'm exhausted. Great. Now, rather than saying, that's no excuse, if your desire is strong enough, you'll figure out a way.
Yeah.
Let's just accept it. Okay.
You're freaking tired.
Makes sense. So now you can start you're peeling away the onion, the layers. And then we can get into creating a plan, because we've already got the dream and the goal, and we're working on the plan that is actually executable. And that's where we can start to dive into things, whether it's, you don't have to go all or nothing. Maybe, what do you normally eat for breakfast? Or what do you normally snack after dinner? Or how much TV do you generally watch at night? And get into little things about when you might be able to work in some exercise, and then start building on that, versus just how you're going to carve out an hour and a half, 5 days a week, and get on the treadmill and do
eat the whole damn elephant right now.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think it all starts with listening and asking, why questions to get to the heart of the matter.
And what's great about this is the only reason why these conversations can be challenging, if either A, you're on the giving, or B, on the receiving end, is that you're stuck in the sense that you're not willing to make the changes necessary, and it's normally because your mind is clouded by the whys of why you can't.
Right.
If that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So the hindsight is 2020 component is when you're mentoring somebody, or if somebody is trying to mentor you, you have the hindsight component because you're giving an opinion because you've been there before. You've lost the weight, you've climbed the ladder in the career, you've rebuilt the finances, you've rebuilt the relationships, whatever the problem is, and you feel like you have input that you can give this person, but all you're hearing is excuses. This is obviously a managerial topic as well, because whether you're leading somebody directly, as in you're their superior, or whether you're just in a moment where you can offer wisdom to somebody younger or older than you.
But, and as it would apply in our business, in our industry, if someone's not hitting their monthly goals in terms of the number of deals or the spread they're throwing up or whatever, and you start working backwards to the activity. Obviously, in our business, generally we're not producing because our activity isn't where it needs to be. And then when it comes to the why, this is where I think a lot of managers kind of can fall off. So, as just using phone calls as an example, I'm just picking some activity.
Sure.
It as you're diving down, maybe as the person looks back, they're seeing that the reason they're not hitting their numbers is because they're only making 10 phone calls a day, or whatever the number, something low. And oftentimes a manager answer might just be, well, statistically here, if you make 50 outbound calls a day, that's going to lead to X number of this and X number of that and 4 deals a month.
Which is technically true.
So there
but
you
what
go.
the hell is the break between the 10 and the 50?
Right. So there you go, Bob. There's your answer. Make up those calls to 50 or whatever the number.
More push-ups.
Now, okay, now that's
More time on the elliptical.
Now that sounds right. Right?
Yeah.
It's right
true.
there. The math is right there
It
for
makes
you,
sense.
bud. Make 50 calls every day. You're going to hit your numbers.
Eat better and work out, and you'll lose weight.
But we are not yet to the core. We need to go deeper than that.
You got to go into the why.
Why aren't you making calls? Then these are the conversations where I'm going to get to where I think managers sometimes fail. Well, I'm afraid. No one. If you generally, I think the reason
God love you if you can get them out of them.
Yes,
by the way,
if you can dive down deep enough, and we're just happen to be talking about phone calls right now, but to where they say, look, we sit in a pit, everyone's right next to each other, our desks push up against each other. Yeah, I just feel weird making calls in front of people. I'm embarrassed. I feel like I'm being judged every call I make.
Yep.
Okay, so how might a manager fix that? Get in a room and do some uncomfortable role playing.
Yes.
Why doesn't that happen? Because the manager's shitty at it. The manager is happy to get out of sales, so he don't have to do it no more.
He doesn't have to do it, yeah.
So these are areas where I think management fails because they're either consciously or subconsciously not willing to dive really deep because managing is going to get uncomfortable for them, not just the person that needs to improve a skill.
And now you got a double-sided goal setting problem. Yeah, it's an interesting point in reference to how people get stuck. Okay, so this sounds so cheesy, but one of the books that I would recommend the most of all books, of all business and life books, is a 15-year-old book by, of all people, Dr. Phil. And I read this book years and years and years ago, and it is literally all about payoffs. I don't even remember the title of the book, so Google Dr. Phil and payoffs. And the basic argument is every time you're at a crossroads in your career or in your life or in your relationships or whatever, you are getting paid off in multiple different areas. So if we go back to the working out example, if you are lazy, you are getting a payoff where you don't have to feel the pain of working out. You don't have to break your routine. You won't be sore. You won't feel awkward. You won't feel judged at the gym or whatever the thing is. However, it's being contrast by the payoff of what you're looking for. Being that dude who's 5'10", 170, being that gal who's 5'4", 130, I don't know, making up numbers. So you have a competing payoff situation. So you have a payoff where you don't have to feel the pain and feel the anguish and feel the uncomfortableness compared to the other payoff where you would feel great in your own skin, healthier, fitter, more attractive, etc., etc. One of those two sons of bitches are winning every single time. So if you are struggling to do what you need to do, and I have plenty. So I have areas where I'm winning and areas where I'm failing. It's because the payoff associated with one side or the other is winning. So in an area that you're thriving, it's that the payoff for you being willing to tolerate the pain, to get the payoff that is as perceived as higher, is now winning. But if you're struggling and you're in quicksand, the pleasure, the payoff that you get from not doing what you need to do is more powerful. So you need to be able to step back and say to yourself, I don't have enough friends. I'm fatter than I want to be. I'm not making as much money as I want. I am with the wrong person. I don't have as much money. And then you have to look at the payoffs of both sides and be able to say, which one is more powerful? Not which one do I want to be more powerful. It's which one fucking is more powerful. Let's just strip the bullshit and be honest. Which one is more powerful? And if you've been struggling to lose the weight, it's because of the fact that the payoff to be lazy, to feel more comfortable not being weird in a gym, or the sweat, or whatever, that fear is more powerful than the payoff to be skinny. Period. If you want to be a high performing person, if you want to get promoted, if you want to make more money, if you are able to execute and you were able to win the battle of payoffs more often than not, even 51 to 49, then the payoff to progress in your life in that area is more powerful than the fear and anguish and pain associated with not doing what you need to do. And if you can just look in the damn mirror and admit that, then you can say, in this moment, I am losing in this area of my life because of the fact that the payoff of the fear, the payoff of avoiding the fear, is more powerful than the payoff of embracing the fear to get the payoff that I'm looking for in whatever area.
Yeah.
And if you can just frickin' strip the lies and the bullshit in your brain and admit it, I think that's the first step, because the dream itself is not powerful enough to set a goal, plan it, and execute unless the dream and the goal and the plan and the execution is more powerful than the fear, anxiety, and stress.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think people lose that battle every day of their lives. I am human too. Welcome to the frickin' crew. All I'm trying to do is 51 to 49 in those hard ass areas to be able to embrace it and attack the pain. Start a company, attack the pain. Build a sales career, attack the pain. Lose weight, attack the pain. And you actually might have a chance to be able to get through that. And if you're mentoring somebody and they can't get through it, it's not your fault. It's just that they are in a situation where the payoffs are uneven, and it's uneven on the side of apathy, more so towards the side of execution. Period.
That's good stuff, Jeremy Miller.
That's it, boys and girls. Episode number, I don't even know. This is the Hindsight is 2020 episode of the Hire and Fire podcast, brought to you by Pyra Consulting. We are coming back again next week with a special guest. She's high energy and bubbly. You're going to love her. So come back next week, and we will see you again, and we appreciate your time. You just got done listening to Hire and Fire, a production by Pyra Consulting. Please check us out online on either LinkedIn, Facebook, or our website at pyraconsulting.com. That's PIRA consulting.com.